Okay, in this lesson we're going to take a look at this short program from Beginning C++ by Dawson. Um, and let me just run it first to show you what it does. It just lists out a bunch of game stats, basically. So here's the score, the distance you went, if you want to play again, your lives, aliens killed, and stuff like that. And then it's prompting you for a question. It says how much fuel. I'm just going to put in 15, and then it says fuel 15, bonus 10. Press any key to continue. So I'll press a key. So the purpose of this program is really to illustrate the use of variables. And you've probably noticed by now that so first of all, in a C++ program, remember it's common to have these preprocessor directives up top, like this one, just including the I/O stream, and using namespace std lets us, call cout and cin directly. There are other objects that belong to std, but those are the ones we're using in this program. And we have these fundamental types, or also called primitive types, that you've seen in C#, int, double, char, bool. There's this one called short, and actually short is a shorthand for short int. So you can have an integer value that takes up less space than a normal integer would. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you think about it, so all values are ultimately stored as zeros and ones, right? So if we have, let's see, I think I have down here how many. Yeah, so a short int ranges in value from minus 32,768 to 32,767. So the way these guys are stored, basically one bit is reserved for a sign, either a plus or minus sign, and then the other bits hold the value. So a short int, I think that's about, let me see. So if we have 2 raised to the 2 raised to the 16 is 65,536. So if we reserve a bit, so if we have 2 bytes would be 16 bits, okay? If we reserve one of those bits for a sign, then that gives us 2 to the 15th. So 1 bit for the sign, and then there's 30. That means we can assign 32,768 values to the other 15 bits, right? So that's why we get this value range. And let's see, and similar idea to this, when it's unsigned, then we can get a total of 0 to 65,535 values, because that's when we have, what did we say? We said that 2 to the 16th is that, okay? So so that's our unsigned short. Then we have an int. So you see you have these modifiers. You can make something short. You can make it unsigned if you want, so it only takes on positive values. So here because we said unsigned short, we don't have to reserve a bit for the negative value. We can just have all positive values. So it goes 0 to 65,535. Oh yeah, and this, so remember, because we have a 0 in here, that's why this goes from minus 32,768 to 32,767, right? Because if we add one more for the 0, that gives us our 65,536 values, and the same thing here, right? So, so there's a total of 65,536 values, but the highest value you can store is 65,535 because you've got a 0 here, right? And then a regular int is, I would say that's probably going to be 4 bytes, right? So let's see, 2 to the 32, yeah. Oh, okay, right, that's that much. And then if we reserve a bit for the sign, yeah, that's how we get our values here of yeah, that gets big pretty fast. So that's thousands, millions, billions. So it's over minus 2 billion to 2 billion plus for ints. And then unsigned bits go from 0 to 4 billion plus. So a long int is the same as a regular int. And then an unsigned long int is the same as a regular unsigned int. And then we have floats and doubles. You can have a long double, a char, that's just 265 character values, and a Boolean true or false. Okay, so so those are the different types you can have. And so then here we're just assigning values to all those. So notice, since score is an int, we assign it an integer value as 0. Distance is a double, so we can assign it this 1200.76. We can have a decimal piece to it. Play again is a char, so we assign it quote y quote. So it has to be a single character surrounded by single quotes. Shields up gets a Boolean value. It'd have to be either true or false. We're assigning true here. Lives is a short, which is one of those 16-bit ints, right? So that gets 3. That gets a value of 3. Aliens killed, same deal. That's a 10. And then we can assign this double. And notice this is another way you can assign things. So you can declare the variables and then assign values, or you can assign a value right away as you declare it. Then we have our cout business. Notice this \n. So this is like sticking in an endl in front of score. And the same thing here. So we have this \n. It just gives us a new line. And then notice though that we didn't put any endl or new line character over here, so that after you say how much fuel, there's going to be a space, and then your prompt comes up right after that. Let me just run that again to show you what I'm talking about here. So if we had an endl after, or a return character after that question mark, this blinking cursor would have been down here on the next line. But because we just had a space, that lets us put our blinking cursor right after our prompt. I'm going to say 15 again. Yeah. Okay. And the cn, remember, cout, we're piping this literal string here. We're piping that into cout, so that angle brackets go towards the cout. And then here we're getting the value that we're going to put into the fuel variable. We're getting that from cn. So the angle brackets go from cn into the fuel variable. And then we have this last thing right here, this typedef unsigned short int. You can actually define your own types. So basically, instead of having to write out unsigned short int, we'll just do a typedef and say that an unsigned short, we're just going to have the word ushort stand for unsigned short int. So now we can just say ushort bonus equals 10. Okay. And then I have my system pause here and my return 0. Remember, we always have a return 0 or some kind of a return some kind of int out of our main procedure. And return 0 again signals that we returned without any problems.